Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and one of the coolest ways you can customize your car is with carbon fiber. I want to show you how you can easily install the M2 CS style carbon fiber onto your BMW M2C. All right, this is gonna be a really easy project today. So it's gonna take you a little bit of time to change out your existing spoiler, your trunk spoiler on your M2 Competition. Now, I am a huge fan of the M2 CS, and it has some distinct differences that I'd like to add to my car. I'm not looking to clone my car into an M2 CS, but add a few of those little distinct differences, and I have a fantastic carbon fiber kit from CT Carbon, which includes the CS style rear spoiler. Now, make sure to check out all of my videos in this set, because I'm going to show you how to add it all. Front lip, rear diffuser, side wings, the whole 9 yards. But we're going to be doing the rear spoiler today. Now this is going to be a really easy project to do, so it's going to take you a little bit of time and simple tools. So let's jump to the trunk and I'll show you how you're going to do it. All right, y'all, so here we are at the trunk. You can see this is the existing OEM spoiler here on the rear, and it's straight all the way across. It's kind of a medium kick as far as its height. And the CS style is a notched high kick. So as we just lay here for a second, you can see it's just a smidge taller, a little bit thicker, and has this notch down through the center. So it's called a high kick style, a little bit different. And looking at the new one is a good example of what we're trying to get to with the existing one. So the existing one is just held down with adhesive, very similar to what the new one will be. So all we need to do to get this off, it's not bolted down or anything else, it just has adhesive all the way underneath, and we're gonna have to get underneath it. So there's a lot of different ways of coming at this, and really probably the easiest way in general is fishing line. So what I'll usually do is I'll have a plastic trim kit handy, and then I'll just work a piece of fishing line underneath the lead edge of the spoiler and just work it and cut it. I usually wear a pair of gloves because then you can wrap up, coil up some fishing line in your hand and work it underneath. Now, the other trick that I've learned, and I'll show you this here in a second, I just want to explain it to you. The other trick that I've learned is as soon as I start to get a little bit of gap, where I can get some gap in between the spoiler and the trunk, is that I will, with a towel, I will take a plastic trim tool and wedge it underneath the edge of this to apply a little bit of up pressure. So that'll help the fishing line cut through the adhesive, that'll help give a little bit of gap. And that way you don't scratch your paint, you're not screwing up anything. Now, the one last thing that you can do if you really want to be super, super careful is you can also take a little bit of painter's tape to kind of mark where the existing one is. I don't find that as useful simply because the new one, when we look at it here for a second, again, different dimensions, a little bit different shape. It has a lip here on the bottom where that lip is gonna ride along the edge of your trunk line here. So I find that it's pretty easy to get it centered and all fit into the right position just on its own. You don't have to use tape or anything for marking. So let me grab a little bit of fishing line and some gloves, and I'll show you kind of cutting under this first initial section, and then you just work your way across. Once this comes off, then we're gonna work to get any existing residue off as well, but we'll cover that once we get there. All right, so I've just got some gloves so I can hold the fishing line, and I wish I had a little bit stronger, but this works, and I've used this before when I took the spoiler off on my F32 and I changed it several times. So this works really well. So all you need to do is just work this under an edge and then just slowly saw back and forth, and you can see where it's slowly making progress, and it's gonna break, which is why I did this on purpose to show you. You're gonna break it a lot, and like I said, I wish I had a little bit stronger, right? But as you go through this and just work it underneath as you go through here, and just slowly kind of saw away at the adhesive, and you can see it's just slowly making progress. Now, once you make some progress there, and I've got a very, very slim edged plastic trim tool, you can work this up and underneath the edge of the spoiler right there, and you can see it'll start to get a little bit of gap. Hopefully you can see that it's actually underneath a little bit. Now, you can also put a towel under there, like a microfiber towel, to make sure you don't scratch anything, because the last thing you want to do to make a cosmetic change is do cosmetic damage. All right, so it really is that simple. So just work your way through the whole thing, cut the whole thing back. I'll probably show you a couple of stages along the way, kind of quarter of the way or halfway through, but it really is that simple for you to do. And so just work your way all the way through and go ahead and get this off. All right, y'all, so here we are at about the halfway mark, and as you can see, I'm using some plastic trim tools to give myself a little bit of gap. I've gone through a fair amount of fishing line. This is a 10-pound test. I always include all the tools that you need and everything in the video description. If you look at the video description, I'm probably going to recommend 20-pound test. So this is what I happen to have online. So 20-pound test is stronger, thicker monofilament line. And it'd be easier to cut through the glue. Now, if you look here underneath, you can start to see a little bit of the glue start to come out. And you can see it looks pretty ugly right now. But again, we're going to get that all cleaned up. I'm going to show you a trick on how to get all that glue off. Now, I'm just slowly working my way down through all this. And, you know, this is going to take a while. This is all the more reason why you should do this yourself. Because why would you want to pay a shop, you know, 100, 150 bucks an hour to do something that's going to take a couple of hours, right? And all it is just very simple work. You just cut and then you gap a little bit and cut and gap a little bit. So this is something that I really emphasize, even though it's going to take longer. It doesn't take any special tools or any real special knowledge. It just takes time and patience. And that's a great way to not have to spend the time at a shop to do this for you. So go ahead and keep working. Once I get the rest of this off, I'll show you what it looks like. All right, y'all, as you can tell, the spoiler's off, and man, it left a lot of glue and kind of a rubbery glue behind. Just more than really I've ever had on any spoiler I've pulled off, which is kind of ironic. I've seen some criticisms with the new G80s and G82s where their spoilers are loose. Like, you know, one side will be loose. That is not the case in this car, man. So as you can see, there's a tremendous amount left behind. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can get at this to start to take it off. If you were lucky and you had very little residue, you could use a little rubbing alcohol and a towel and it'll come off, which I've had happen in one car. This is probably the worst case scenario that I've seen, and it's probably a good example to show you how to do this. So actually what I'm going to do is I actually have a wheel that I can put on my drill. It's a rubber wheel that helps track all of this off. But what I also don't want to do is track any dirt in. You can see where dirt has come back underneath the spoiler. So I'm going to take a wet microfiber cloth and just kind of clean this up a little bit so I'm not tracking any dirt or any light gravel around, which is the last thing I want to have happen. But then we're going to have to work and start to get all this off. So let me get my wheel and we'll get this cleaned up. I'm going to wipe this down. You could also use a little bit of that kind of goof off or goo gone materials as well to start to loosen this up. But let's get started on that. All right, so I have a rubber. It's called like a sticker wheel. It's for getting sticker adhesive off surfaces, and you can use it on your car as well. Now, what I would also recommend is if you have any really big chunks that you can get to before you put the wheel to them, definitely do so. Get those off, because then it's just less for the wheel to kind of smudge around. So this is a soft rubber wheel that works its way, that kind of will wear itself down as you go by. The link for this will be in the video description. And basically you just start working at this. And the bigger chunks are definitely gonna take some time. And in some ways, this is the best worst example. I've had spoilers come off that leave significantly less rubber and glue behind. This is probably the worst I've ever seen. So in some ways, you can probably assume that your car is probably going to be better than this. But, so I've just got my drill, I've got a cordless drill in the wheel, and you just start working. There you go, and as you can see, it worked its way up, and it kind of pills up all the rubber and adhesive, right? So basically, that's really what it comes down to. Now, I've done some of this by hand before when there's been a lot less left behind, and I could just kind of pill it up with my finger and just rolled it off. But in this case, I definitely want to use a power tool. So I'm going to work my way through the rest of this. I'll probably show you about halfway through what it looks like. Like I said, this being the best worst example I've ever had, and I'll show you when it's done. All right, y'all, so other than making really a spectacular mess, I am really impressed with this buffing wheel. Like I said, it'll be in the description, but man, it came right off, and the other times I've taken spoilers off, I really wish I'd had one of these. So I highly recommend it because this is the worst glue I've ever had, and it tore right through it. Now, one little trick that I learned about halfway through is, so if you have a really big lump of that adhesive, I'd actually come at it with the edge of the wheel and kind of cut at it with the edge, and it would cut through the big, real thick residue, where laying at it flat and spinning into it was just trying to kind of push it and was wearing it down from the top, where cutting at it from the edge would kind of cut the whole thing off, and in a couple of places I got some pretty big chunks off. So looks really, really good. Car's definitely in need of wash by the time I'm done. But now you can see a little bit of residue left, and the wheel is not going to get this very well because it just warms it up and then just kind of smears it and pushes it, as you can see as I do so with my finger. So I'm just going to get a microfiber towel, and I'm going to get some rubbing alcohol and maybe just a little bit of residue. And you can feel when you rub your hands down, you can feel if there's just kind of a smear or if there's a little bit of a ridge. So I'm going to make sure that that's all cleaned up, and then we're going to walk through putting the new one on. Nope, you're not jumping to the end. I just set it here in place. Man, it looks so good. I really do like these notch designs. That little bit of a higher kick on either side and the notch design like you see on the M2 CSs. So the real cool advantage about designs like this for spoilers is that they have a little bit of a curve and a back lip on them right here. So when you place them on the trunk, you can feel right where it hits right up against the edge of the trunk, so you don't have to worry about, you know, up and down position very much. Same thing, when you just place your fingers on both sides, you can feel the crease right there at the edges of the trunk, and right there it's even, and that's right where it's going to sit when it's actually on and finished. So really simple, really straightforward. Okay, application is really easy. So you've got all this double-sided 3M adhesive underneath, and the recommendation is not to peel it all off at once. If you've done this a bunch, you can. Just peel it all off at once, and you're going to be careful in setting it into place. What you don't want to do, obviously, is set it into place wrong. So what I tend to do is I will take off one side, and you can take this strip and peel it back partially. So imagine this side is partially peeled back to about here. So then I can take it and very carefully, like it's almost not touching, set it down into place. And I can get it all set into place correctly on both sides, right? So now that's where it would sit. So then I would have those red strips hanging out from underneath, and then I just take them and I peel them very carefully as I go and lay this down the length of the trunk, right? Does that make sense? So let me get this set up to show you just a little bit of that, but it really is that simple. And the whole time, you know, you can sit and you can fit and measure to make sure that the fitment is right. Don't press down firmly until it's done. Once it's done the whole way down, then you can start to really press on this. Now also, this looks like a good amount of the 3M adhesive. I've definitely had on some spoilers where I've added some or I've added some additional. I don't think we need to do so in this case, so that's really good. So let me get these initial corners stripped out, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, here we go for fitment. Like I said, I got the corner and I've peeled them back about, you know, a third, 25% of the way. Then I'm just gonna take it and use my other hand as well to just start to guide to get good fitment in place, because I know I can get the fitment on the other side without it sticking down. Then I can just take it and I feel it start to, you know, hit the edge of the trunk right there. You feel it start to set right there, okay? Good position on both sides. I can feel the gap here on both sides is good. And then I can just take the rest of this and just peel the rest of the way. This front one probably could have been in front. It would be a little bit better. I think I'm going to adjust that right now. I'm going to have this one actually coming out of the front, okay? Make it fit a little bit better. And as you can see, I picked it right back up without any problems because I hadn't pressed it down yet. So again, I'm going to double check my fitment, get this edge, you know, on the trunk on one side, make sure my right to left fitment is nice and fit and perfect. You can feel right where it sets right there. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to walk the rest of the way and pull the rest of this the red off, as you can see as we go here, rest of the way down. Okay, so that'll be set, and then we just press down really hard, really firmly, and get it all set into place. All right, so all done. So the adhesive backing was all pulled off, and I've pressed and held it into place. I've kind of worked my hands evenly up and down the spoiler to make sure that it adheres down really nicely. Also, my car is going to sit for a little while too. I'm not going to take it out immediately and you know, drive at high rates of speed and tear it back off, right? So all in all, it looks really, really good. I love this high kick design. I had one that was similar on my F32, and this is the design off the M2 CS. So really kind of that little more aggressive design, a little bit higher spoiler with this notch here in the center. So I really love this. As you can tell, this is not a hard project to do. I don't know why you would have a shop do this for you when it's something you can easily do yourself at home with only a few simple tools and just some time. It's really all it takes. All right, so go ahead and wrap up, clean up, put your tools away. All right, so make sure to clean up, put your tools away. This is obviously a project you can easily do yourself at home with only a few simple tools and some time. Now, also remember that this is part of a series of adding the M2 CS style carbon fiber to my M2 competition. So if you're doing the same, make sure to check out all the others in the series as well. Thank you to CT Carbon for making such a fantastic product. It's really easy to work with, looks really, really good, and I'm excited to have this on my car. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to click subscribe and the little alarm bell. It makes a huge difference to my channel, and I have a ton of content coming that I am really excited to tell you about. And I'll see you on my next video.